It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
Okay, Jason has a question. He asks, my dad is over 60 and is very far from his retirement goal. He's gotten his savings rate as high as he can, but he's hesitant in getting help from a financial planner. How can I convince him? And should he convince him?
You know, that's one of those things where, I mean, it really depends upon what's the why and how close are you with the goals. Because the biggest thing I heard Jason say is that he's far from his retirement goals. And look, we love fee-only financial advisors. And it's one of those things because the conflict of interest is tried to minimize. Everybody has a conflict of interest that works in anything finance. But if you can try to minimize somebody trying to sell your father, who you've already described as being far from his retirement goals, you don't want them going to somebody and they start pitching life insurance and other things, because that's not going to speed up your journey to building wealth. So it might make sense to find somebody to kind of measure twice and figure out how close are we to the goals. But I really think it's it's not something that I try to, because I know a lot of people. We had Clark Howard on the show. And I bet Clark doesn't have a financial advisor. I mean, so we're not saying that everybody should have a financial advisor, Jason. But you bring up some huge indicators when you have question marks, because your money, your safety, your comfort level on maximizing as well as reaching your goals. If you can't get a beat on where you are in that journey process, that's when it's probably a good idea to bring in somebody to be your tour guide or somebody. Because remember, you've never had a retirement. A good financial advisor's done hundreds of retirements. So there's a lot of experience that's won there. But you have to first go through the exercise of, what do I need to know and how do I, because I think there are a group of people, especially people watching financial content, you're really good at the do-it-yourself.
Sure.
And that's why I never beat people over the head, because I think that it just is a natural progression. You'll know when you have blind spots or stuff you just don't know, and that's when you need to bring in somebody to be a co-pilot with you.
I agree with that completely. I'm going to take the other side of the equation too, that I think is important to mention, because you mentioned your dad is a long ways off. He's 60 and a long ways off from retirement. I think it's important to note that one of the things financial advisors can't do is they can't magically solve all problems. A lot of people approach me and they say, hey, I've got this going on and this going on and this going on and this going on and this going on, and I want to retire next year. And I'm like, well, hey, just realistically, that may not be possible in your circumstance. And while you think what you need is a financial advisor to help you put together a comprehensive, thought out, sophisticated financial plan, what you really need is some behavioral coaching. You need someone to help you figure out how to budget. How do I live on less than I make? You said your dad's done a good job of getting his savings rate as high as he can. Even that, having someone work with them, and maybe that's a financial advisor, or maybe it's a financial coach, or maybe there's a course that he could take, or maybe there's some curriculum he could go through that would help answer some of those questions. I think the first thing you'd have to get your dad over that hump, you got to figure out what's your dad really looking to accomplish. What's the thing that he needs help with? And don't just assume the answer is, some high net worth financial advisor will fix that problem. There's a plethora of resources out there in the financial world that can speak to those different areas that might help your dad better than where he currently is right now. It may or may not be a fee-only financial advisor that does that.
I thought that, you make a tremendous point. Somebody who's 60 years of age, far from retirement, that means there's 40 years of life, that there's something in there that was not taking him further on the wealth building journey. If you don't address that, how can you expect that in the future that once you leave the workforce completely, that it's going to get better?
Yep.
It's not. So I think you make a very solid point on that. And that's one of the things I always, because I have people, I even had some, if they're struggling with, they've built up tremendous amounts of debt and they want to know, should I consider bankruptcy? I'm like, I don't think your typical financial advisor, that's just not the skill set. Because we just don't deal with that. That's why when people talk about credit card debt, I'm like, we don't have clients that show up here with $45,000 of credit card debt, because prospects who come to us, you've been paying up. It's just common sense that you're going to pay off your credit card every month if you decide to use this dangerous tool. And I think I think you make a very solid point. So Jason, Make sure you're not only focusing on do I need a financial advisor, but focus on exactly what Bo said. Are the behavioral things there, like the budgeting, the strategies that that you're maximizing what comes in, and there's always two ways that you either make more money or you spend less money to create more net for yourself. And so let's make sure we're not skipping the budgeting and the behavioral things that need to be going on as well.
And curate some content for them. I mean, one of the things that I love is if you can find resources out there that give away tons of free content, Money Guy Show, point your dad to some of the episodes that maybe speak to him. We did an episode a number of weeks ago on Social Security, pitfalls to watch out for, things to think about. Your dad is kind of at that age, getting very close, where you have to make some of those decisions. So if you can get him to actively engage in his own financial well-being, it may be something where just getting him educated will start moving him even further in the right direction, moving towards what his ultimate goals are.